Hello and welcome to the Futures Lab. So, this week we're going to start programming in our fight mechanic. When you select the fight option in Undertale, you get this sort of oval shape, and this white bar starts moving from the left to the right and then back again. And when you hit the attack button, you are rewarded for how close it is to the middle. That's how much damage you deal. So let's go to our project. Now you can use the Undertale graphic if you want. I'm going to draw my own. So go to the box sprite, go to costumes. Now this costume that we have here, make sure this is called evade, because now that we're going to have multiple costumes, we're going to switch between them. We're going to draw in a new costume, and we need to make sure this costume is called fight. Now I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I'm going to make sure the fill is empty and the outline is white. Now make sure when you draw this that you center the box. You want to make sure that it's nicely in the middle of the screen. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to make a green square for the middle section. I'm going to make sure it's nice and centered before I do anything else. Now I'm going to draw some colored lines. If you hold down Shift, you can make sure that the lines are straight. Now one thing I recommend, with the project not started, just drag your heart around so you can double check where these lines are in terms of their X coordinate. And then duplicate this costume. We're going to rename this to menu, and we're going to delete all of the colored lines and circles. So now you should have 3 costumes: evade, fight, and menu. Let's go back to the code. So now look for when green flag clicked. Go to Control, get out a forever loop, and put that underneath that go to x0, y0. Now pull out an if then, go to operators, and get out an equals operator. We're going to go to variables and pull out our mode variable. Click on the 50 and type in menu. So now if our mode equals menu, we want to switch the costume to menu. So let's go to looks, pull out switch costume to menu, and now what we're going to do is we're going to hover over the if, right click, duplicate, and with the next one we're going to say if we're in mode fight, switch costume to fight, and then the next one we are going to duplicate again and say if mode evade, switch costume to evade. And here's a spoiler, we're going to do one more. Duplicate, we're going to have a mode called slash, and I'm going to switch the costume back to menu. So this is what you should have. If mode equals menu, switch costume to menu, fight switches to fight, evade switches to evade, and slash switches to menu. So now we have our mode variable, and it contains a word, and depending on what word that is, depends on which costume our box switches to. Now the next thing to do is to give the player the ability to switch between modes. So let's go to the heart sprite, and let's look for define menu. Now these are the controls the player has in the menu mode, which is the mode you start in when you start the game. Now remember, when we start the game, we've got access to our 4 buttons and we can move left and right between them. And if we hit the spacebar, it selects one of them. But currently we haven't programmed in the buttons to do anything different. Whenever we hit the spacebar, it switches the mode to evade. And evade is the mode where we get projectiles thrown at us and we have to dodge them. So what we're going to do is have a look for if key space pressed. Now currently all that is there is set mode to evade. So let's drag all of this out and put it off to the side for now. Let's go to Control and get out an if then and put it inside our if key space pressed. Let's go to Operators and get out an equals operator. Now we have a variable that keeps track of which of these 4 buttons we have selected, and it uses a number. So remember, 0 is fight, 1 is act, 2 is item, and 3 is mercy. If we want our code to do something different when we have the fight button selected, then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Variables, we're going to pull out menu button selected equals to 0. And we're going to set mode to fight. We're also going to create a broadcast. We're going to go to Events and pull out Broadcast, put that underneath set mode, and we're going to click on where it says Screen Shake, click on New Message, and type in fight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new sprite, and we're going to call this sprite fight. Now the first costume we're going to make for this sprite is going to be that aiming line that we have, this one right here. So let's make there a box, let's make sure it's nice and thin, and once you've made it, just drag it so that you're happy with how tall it is. That's pretty close. And then make sure that you center it, and we're going to name this costume Aim. Let's go back to the code. So we're going to go to Events, pull out When I Receive Fight, and then we're going to go to Looks, the purple category. We're going to pull out Set Size to 100%, pull out Switch Costume to Aim. We're going to go to Motion, the blue category, pull out Point in Direction 90, and go to X and Y. Now we want our aiming line to go here. So drag it to where you want it to go and have a look at the X coordinate and the Y coordinate and just put those numbers into here. So I want mine to go to X minus 182 and Y minus 39. Go to Control, pull out Wait 1 second, but change that 1 to a 0.1. Go to Looks, and get out a Show, make another Wait 0.1 seconds. Go to Control, and pull out a Repeat 10, put that on the bottom, but change that 10 to 100. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Motion and pull out a Change X by 10. All right, give it a test. So when we select the Fight option, we've got our line, it moves to the right, that's really good. Now what we need to do is we need that when it hits this point here, it needs to start coming back the other way. We're going to create a variable that controls the speed of this aiming line. So we're going to go to Variables, we're going to click on Make a Variable, and we're going to select for this sprite only. We're going to call this Speed, and then press OK. And you should now have this new fight:speed variable. That's good. So we need to give it a speed at the beginning of the game. So let's go to Events, get out When Green Flag Clicked, and under this When Green Flag Clicked, we're going to go to Variables and pull out a Set variable, set the speed to, let's say, 8 for now. While we're here, let's go to Looks and get out a Hide and put it underneath our set speed to 8. Go back to Variables, get out a Speed variable and put that in our Change X by Speed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Control, and we're going to pull out an if-then. Put it right underneath change x by speed. We are going to check the x coordinate to see if it has gone too far right or too far left. And if it has, we are going to reverse the speed. Now, how do you reverse the speed? It's very easy. All you need to do is times it by -1, and that will flip the speed. If you're traveling in one direction, it will start traveling in the reverse of that direction. So let's go to variables. Let's get out a set speed. Let's put it inside our if then. And what we need to do now is go to operators, and then we need to get out a multiplied by operator. Go back to variables, pull out a speed variable, put it there, and we're going to times it by -1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to operators. We need to pull out a more than, a less than, and an or. So we're going to get our more than operator and put it into one half of our or, and our less than operator and put it into the other half of our or. Go to motion and scroll down until you find X position. Drag that out, put it into that first slot of our more than, and then another one into the first slot of our less than. So this more than here is going to reverse the speed if our aiming line goes too far to the right. And this less than is going to reverse the speed if it goes too far to the left. Now I'm going to use the starting X that we have. I'm going to put in here and our more than 182, and over here in our less than -182. You can change these numbers, but if you do, make sure you also update your starting position. So get this entire or here and put that in between the if then. And let's give it a test. And let's see if it bounces, and it does. Excellent. Okay. Now at this point, if you want, you can change this number here, this 100. If you make it a larger number, it will keep going for a longer period of time, bouncing the whole time. You can also change this speed variable if you like. So now we need to program in our attack. So scroll down and get out an if then. It needs to go right here. Go to operators, to get out an equals operator and put it inside that if. Go to variables, get out mode, put it into that first socket of the equals operator. Click on that 50 and type in fight. Go to control, get out another if then, put that inside, and go to sensing and get out key space pressed. Then we're going to go to variables, and we're going to get out set variable, and we're going to set the mode to /. This is going to make it so that the player can't hit the spacebar multiple times and get multiple hits in. Then what we need to do is go to My Blocks. In the top left corner, click on Make a Block. Call this Damage Enemy and press OK. Now move this Define Damage Enemy somewhere off by itself and drag this little Damage Enemy down here right underneath Set Mode to /. Now click on Make a Block again. We're going to call this one /animation. Press OK. Drag a /animation block and put it right underneath Damage Enemy. And then drag your Define /animation off somewhere by itself. We're actually going to use this next week. Now, make sure you've got a ton of space underneath Define Damage Enemy. We're going to make an effect whereby this white aim bar sort of fades out and gets a little bit larger. So we're going to go to Control, we're going to get out a repeat 10, we're going to change it to 20, and then we're going to go to Looks, and we're going to get out change size by 1, and we're going to get out change color effect and another change color effect. Now this first color effect we're going to change to a brightness effect, and we're going to change the brightness by 5, and this second change color we're going to change to ghost effect, and we're going to change that by 5. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Ah, that looks brilliant. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure if we are within the range of attacks that will deal damage to the enemy. So let's go to Control, get out an if then else. Now we're going to copy a bit of code that we've already made. Look for our X position more than or X position less than, this one right here. Right click on the or and duplicate. Remember what this does is it makes sure something isn't too far left or too far right. So drag this whole thing and put it in between the if and then. Change these numbers. I'm going to change mine to about 100 and minus 100 for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 new broadcasts. We're going to go to Events and get out Broadcast and another Broadcast. Under the if, we're going to change this broadcast to new message, enemy dodges. Because if we're too far left or too far right, we've missed the enemy. And then we're going to click on this one, and we're going to click on new message, and we're going to call this enemy hit, and press OK. Now we're going to put some code into our enemy sprite to make it respond to whether it's been hit or whether it dodges an attack. But before we do that, we need to make sure that at the end of this attack, we go back to the evade mode. So look down until you find your when I receive fight code and look at the bottom of that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the looks category, get out a hide, put that on the bottom there. We're also going to get out a clear graphic effect, because remember we've used some brightness and ghost effects. Then go to variables and set mode to evade. And then after that, we're going to make another broadcast. Go to events, get out a broadcast, click on the broadcast and select new message. And we're going to call this evade. Press OK. So once our fight animation has finished, it's going to hide itself, it's going to switch the mode back, and it's also going to send this broadcast evade. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the heart, our player. Now you might still have this go to x0, y minus 40 still hanging around. If not, get out a new one. This is going to send our heart, our player, back to the middle of the screen when an evade mode starts. So let's go to events, get out when I receive, and change the when I receive to evade. So when this message is sent out, the heart will make sure that it's inside the box, ready to dodge all of the projectiles. Now what we need to do is we need to put some code into our enemy sprite. For me, that's the scratch cat. For you, it might be something else. Let's pull out when I receive enemy dodges, and let's pull out a when I receive enemy hit. Let's start off with the enemy dodge. We'll go to motion. We'll do something nice and simple. And we'll get out a glide 1 seconds to X something, Y something. And then get out another one. Now have a look at the current coordinates of your enemy. For me, it's x0, y85. So I'm just going to make these y's both 85. I'm going to make this first x, this is going to be the dodge. I'm going to make it dodge to the left, so I'm going to make that minus 50. And this next x is when it comes back to the middle again. I'm going to make that 0. That dodge away, I'm going to make that really fast. So let's click on that 1 where it says 1 seconds. I'm going to make that 0.3. And I'm going to make the returning back to the middle a bit slower. So let's click on that 1 and make it 1.7. Now what we need to do is we need to put in some code for what happens when we receive enemy hit. Well, first of all, we can use another broadcast, our screen shake. So let's go to events. Let's get out broadcast screen shake. And then let's use a very similar bit of code to when our heart flashes. Let's get out a repeat 10. Let's go to looks. We shall set ghost effect to 80. And after that, we will clear the graphic effects. And then we'll put in some weights. So let's go to control, get out wait 1 second, and another wait 1 second, and change those 1 seconds, because that's far too long. I'm going to try 0.05. Let's give that a test, shall we? So if I hit it, excellent. You can see the scratch cat gets hurt, and then we go back to the evade mode. And once this evade mode has finished, it will take us back to the menu and we can fight again. And if I miss on purpose, our enemy dodges out of the way. Excellent. There is one more thing we should probably do while we remember. We should have a few new sprites that might need this when I receive screen shake code. So let's have a look. I don't think the menu sprite has it. So just go to a sprite that does have it, drag the code and drop your mouse right over the sprite you want to send it to, and it will copy it across. That looks good. Let's do the same thing for fight as well. Let's do the same thing for health bar. And I think everything else should already have it. Now, next week, we're going to put in some code for the enemy HP. We're also going to put in a cool animation of that iconic slash attack that the main character of Undertale tends to use. As always, subscribe and ring the bell so you know when the next episode is coming out. Stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.